Hi, my name is Galina Lipina, and I help people create harmony with themselves and their relationships. And today's video is going to be about how to go through breakups without heartbreaks. So, most people hate breakups, and most people experience a lot of intense emotions during a breakup. And it takes some time to recover back into the balanced state, into wholeness. And uh, it's not like that for me. Right now, I don't love breakups, but I don't mind them. And it's usually a growth opportunity that I appreciate and I'm grateful for. But it was not always like that. My first breakup in college that I had with a guy that we dated for some time, it was my first serious relationship. I could not forget that guy for 2 years. And those 2 years were torture. Like, I could not look at another man. I was thinking what we did break up was a mistake, that he's my one, and what are we doing? And it was just like going through a lot of cycles in my head that triggered a lot of emotions for me. And that experience actually caused me to go into personal development, caused me to go to understand my emotions because it was so painful in the moment. So I'm very, very grateful for that. And all my recent breakups from the last many years, probably from the last 9 years, they were all pretty balanced. Yes, there were emotions, but there were no toxic, dramatic, traumatic experience to go with it. So I want to share with you what was the perspective shift and what were the changes that happened within me to go from the heartbreak experience every time the relationship ended to a normal, emotional, healthy experience. First of all, it's important to understand that every time something ends, we experience emotions. And usually when something ends, we go through what's called grief cycle. So those emotions are completely normal, and expect for them not to happen would be think that we're not human. So that's totally okay. And in addition to that, very often when we go through a breakup, on top of those grief cycle emotions, we get all sorts of extra ones that don't have to be there. So that's what we're going to talk about today. First, people go through a lot of intense emotions if there is any level of codependency in their relationships. So if any time you're with a person and you feel like, they complete you, or life without them has no meaning, or all the lines that were fed through all the Hollywood movies, those are actually programs in our mind for codependent relationships. Then when that person that completed you goes away out of your life, then you feel like you lost part of you. And there's certain part of experience of love, oneness, care that went away with him. And that's where the feeling of loss comes in. But the more inner work that we do, the more whole we become within ourselves, working through our feminine, our masculine integrations, working through integrations of our triggers and traumas, then the less painful it is when somebody leaves our life. Because if we're fully complete, and our relationship is in addition to an enhancement to an already amazing life, when they go away, it's not as traumatic. So more inner work, more rebalancing, more wholeness, less pain during breakups. That's one thing. Another one is people very often make a lot of assumptions, projections, and meaning about a breakup. And some of the stories have to do about themselves. For example, in my early years, I would go into thoughts like, what's wrong with me that he didn't want me? What's so much better about that person that I don't have? I will always be alone. I will never find my person. Those thoughts, those are the ones that cause the angst within me. And understanding that those thoughts are also just programs. They're not true. We make them up. And if we make them up, we can make up other ones that help us feel better. And part of the thoughts that we make up are about the resistance to the experience of the breakup. So that's where people's like, oh, I want to get my partner back. Or like for me, the thoughts were like, we make a mistake. We shouldn't break up. Like this shouldn't be happening. Like we should still be together. I don't understand. And like anything else in life, what you resist persists. So if you resist the fact that you're alone, then you will still, be staying alone. And resistance is the reaction that does not allow us to move through an experience to the next evolution of our life. So it keeps us stuck. So the faster you can get from resistance to acceptance, the faster you'll move through slowly and smoothly, and hopefully faster to the next evolution of your life and your relationships. Another thing that for me, it was a realization that it's all a perspective. Like nothing inherently is good or bad, right or wrong. Any event is neutral, like many personal development workshops talk about, breakups included. And if we make a meaning that this is a bad thing, it shouldn't have happened, we'd be alone, we're not good enough, then we'll have an experience of that occurrence that will bring all those negative emotions with it. But you can make a different meaning. You can choose a different perspective. And that's what I did. And through the years, I refined it to the way that it's almost enjoyable and it's almost fun, even when it comes with all sorts of emotions. So I'll share with you some of the perspective changes that I use when I go into those dark moments after breakups, and how do I come out of it and shift. So first of all, it helps me to look back. And when I look back at my relationships and my breakups, I see that every single breakup brought me so much. It was such a gift, the breakup alone. Most of my personal growth, not most of it, but like a big amount of my personal growth happened because of breakups. My first breakup caused me to go and take the trainings to understand emotional intelligence. My second big breakup after I moved to the United States brought me to the transformational work and the coaching work, where I actually discovered the direction of my calling and my purpose. If I didn't have that experience, I might have not discovered it, at least not at that time. So when I look back, I see that every time the breakup was painful in the middle, but afterwards I could see how it was actually a gift and how much it brought me. So when the next time it happens, I already have those neural pathways in my head saying, oh, it may not be pleasant in the moment, but all the previous ones were for the better, which means this one will be too. And that's what I decide, and that's what I create. Another part of it is that understanding that resistance of, oh, we should be together, this was a mistake. I usually use a reframe, focusing on if the relationship is balanced, if people are walking together in the same direction, they don't have a reason to break up. So when people actually do break up, there's usually a reason for it, which we may not even understand, because very often it's not a logical reason. But if I just accept that if we were fully aligned and if we were really good for each other, we wouldn't have broken up. And if we are broken up, that means we're no longer aligned as of right now. And if we're not aligned, why try to push it together? That makes no sense. It's much better to find another person, to attract another person that I am in full alignment with about the kind of experience that I want to create in a relationship. And if or when we have thoughts like, oh, like we should be together, we're meant to be, I switch that out saying if we were meant to be, we wouldn't be separate. And if we are meant to be, it will somehow happen in the future that we'll come back. I don't need to waste my energy on thinking that we should be together when we're not. Like that's just a waste of energy. You can't do nothing about it. Another part of it also with alignment, there is that term kind of like if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no, right? I use it the same for relationships. For relationships to be fully like committed, harmonious, both people have to be a hell yes. If at least one person is not a hell yes, why try to push it? Find somebody else who is a hell yes, and then enjoy the experience of growth and life together. The next part that also helps me move through that kind of transition period and those emotions faster is I know in my experience of relationships, every relationship that I have is better than the previous one. Because every time I go through those experiences, I grow. I heal certain parts of me. I become more whole and complete, more awake, more aware. So every next partner is by far better than the previous one. So if this partner was so amazing that I just had a breakup with, then the next one will be even better. And that switches my energy towards anticipation, towards the feeling of what it would be like to be in that next relationship. And when I am in that feeling, I'm more likely to attract that next relationship. Another part that also was a really interesting learning lesson for me is I had a lot of I wasted a lot of energy when I tried to like stop loving my partner. Let's say we broke up and I still loved him. And in my early years, I would go into thinking like I shouldn't be loving him. I should stop the love. This is not okay. We're not together. I should not be loving him. I should focus on loving myself or other people. And I couldn't do it. Like it just didn't work. When I love somebody, I love somebody. So I just allowed that feeling to be. So even though we were not together, when I feel love, I would just feel it. And I would send it their way. And I would shift in the perspective that I can still love them. We don't need to be talking. We don't need to be in a relationship, but I can still send them love from afar. And that allowed that emotion to just be, and I didn't resist it. And when I didn't resist it, it was flowing more easily. So another part that helped me is kind of do an inner assessment. You know, like in project management, when you finish a project, you do a retrospective of what worked, what didn't work. So I do the same with relationships. So when the relationship ends, I kind of look back at it and see what is in our experience that I loved. What really worked for me? What are the parts that I want to have again? And I put that in my intention for the next relationships. And the good thing is if I already experienced it once, it's already in me because it was reflected in a relationship as a reflection of me. So I don't need to wonder if I can have it again. I will, because it's part of me. It will show up in a reflection. And if there are some parts of the relationship that I look at it and say, that part I didn't quite enjoy. That part I would really like to change it in this way. That gives me space to focus on what do I need to grow in? What skills do I need to develop? What triggers do I need to clear out? What do I need to change within myself so my next experience will be different in those parts that I didn't like? And that is always this like burst for the next level of growth for me. And that is probably everything I wanted to share. Also, I found my blog from 9 years ago about 11 steps to get back to feeling empowered, centered, and peaceful after a breakup. I might turn it into an ebook. So if that's something you'd like to read more in detail of the things that some of which I covered today, put it in the comment under the video and I'll see if I can get it out to you. And if you like this video, please like it, share it with your friends who are going through breakups. Hopefully it will ease it out for them and it will make it a smoother transition. If you would like to hear more, subscribe and come back because I will be recording more videos in the topics of harmony with yourself and others. See you.